And good morning. It is, September. Early September. We've got beautiful weather here in Tsawwassen, British Columbia. Thank you for listening to my Facebook chat, Conscious Eating, Conscious Living. And I must say, today it's taken me a while to put this chat together. I thought it was going to be quite easy and simple. Uh, Silk and peace silk. What is peace silk? And it turned out to be much longer than I thought it was going to be. And that's okay, because sometimes we're led down these rabbit holes and deep dives for a reason. First of all, a trip to Thailand with our two children 36 years ago to source pineapple for my husband's fruit salad business. I'm purchasing a beautiful silk dress that I just loved for many years and scarves. And one scarf I still have with elephants on it. It's absolutely beautiful. Elephants are another topic for conscious living. And I am having compassion for my arrogance and my ignorance of how that fabric was made. I really didn't have an idea, sort of silkworms. I didn't really go into that because that wasn't sort of the way I was thinking 36 years ago. And so, one of those Ho'oponoponos. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. Now, with silk becoming more affordable, are we unconsciously aligning this historical association with wealth and elegance at the expense of a living creature, or thousands of them? Was the vegan movement a catalyst for the search for alternatives to silk? Let's dive in. Silk is a luxurious and highly prized natural fiber known for its sheen, softness, strength. The unique properties of silk, including its insulating capacity and hypoallergenic nature, make it a sought-after material in the textile industry. Silk as an animal product, however, is not vegan. For more than 1,000 years, ancient Chinese were reluctant to give up their monopoly on silk production. Silk was sometimes used as currency and worth as much as its weight in gold. And that was kind of where the the Silk Road came to be. Since ancient times, silk has captivated humanity, making it a sought after status symbol. As opposed to cotton or hemp, silk contains 95% protein and is made by silkworms, a moth scientifically known as Bombyx mori. In the early stages of its life cycle, silkworms, or moth caterpillars, spin silk in one unbroken filament from their little spinnerets to create cocoons, a protective covering for themselves. After about 3 to 7 days to spin the cocoon, and it could be longer, there was different details in my research. The silk farmers throw the cocoons into boiling water. This is done to kill the silkworm before they eat their way free and destroy the cocoon, which would result in shorter fibers to weave. The boiling of cocoons is thought necessary to soften the sericin that holds the silk fibers together. Currently, silkworm moths are only found in captivity. Since humans altered the species genetically, it no longer survives independently in nature, especially since the adults can no longer fly. Peace silk requires 10 extra days in the process to let the larvae grow and the moths to hatch out of the cocoons. In contrast, the standard process takes about 15 minutes. At this later stage, the cocoon yields 1/6 of the filament for the peace silk. This inflates the cost of nonviolent silk, which is priced at roughly $92 US per kilogram, about twice the price of the regular silk. The creation and commercialization of Ahimsa Silk is credited to Kusuma Rajay, a 6-year-old government officer from Andhra Pradesh in India. Inspired by Gandhi, Rajaya applied his 40 years of sericulture experience and the theories behind the Ahimsa way of life to the making of silk. He found that it was possible to create silk without killing the silkworms and began weaving Ahimsa silk in 1990. In 2001, his company began marketing the silk, and it continues to gain popularity both in India and abroad. Ahimsa silk allows the silkworm to mature into moth, leave the cocoon before it's processed. In other words, Ahimsa's peace silk fabric doesn't involve killing the silkworm, whereas the other way of doing it does kill the silkworm. But I think there's a little more as I was diving into this research. There's more to it than that. The actual long silk fiber spans up to 1.6 kilometers in length is produced. Around 3,000 silkworms are required to make a pound of silk, and 10,000 silkworms to create a silk sari. The release of the moth results in several disconnected strands of silk because it's cut through instead of one long strand. And that creates a rougher fabric. Because the process is more difficult and time consuming, Ahimsa silk fabric is usually more expensive. Conventional silk production involves the death of billions of silkworms. And even in the case of Ahimsa silk, when the moths are allowed to emerge from the cocoon, the adult Bombyx mori moth might be killed after mating. That I wasn't able to find the truth behind that one. There is also the airy silk called pea silk because the caterpillar creates the cocoon with an opening at one end, allowing the moth to leave before the cocoon is processed. Tusa silkworms are raised outside on tree plantations, but it is unclear whether the moths are allowed to vacate their cocoons or not. And certainly there are sources that point to the majority of cocoons being killed. There's a possibility the Ahimsa silk isn't a piece of ethical fiber it's often claimed to be. I have some questions. What about the 200 to 300 embryos or hatchling silkworms per moth that exceeds what's required for the next crop of silk making? Are they left to starve to death? And they often, when they're not fed, they go through this process where they dehydrate and then die. In India, where the vast majority of Ahimsa silk is being raised, most silkworm strains are multi-voltine. This means that the silkworms do not undergo refrigeration, which they do in some of the other traditional silk making. And the eggs will hatch approximately 2 weeks after being laid. The ones that are not fed will die within a day of hatching from a combination of desiccation and starvation. Remembering that the moth lays between 200 to 500, even up to 1,000 eggs. And that's happening in 2 weeks with thousands of moths, silkworms. What happens to the moths? Other question. What happens to the moths, male and female, once they've left the cocoon? And because they're bred not to be able to fly, what then? What other chemicals are used in the process of creating the silk? Is that a closed loop? Is that a circularity function? There is so much more to learn about. Today is going to be just a brief summary. So some of the alternatives, if you're a vegan or you're concerned about, not using other animal species to create clothes for ourselves, there's some other things. Persian Lotus Silk is sourced from sustainable family farms in Persia. Natural fiber Persian Lotus Silk is 100% cruelty-free, reflecting their brand values, as well as being cruelty-free. Persian Lotus Silk purifies water while protecting fish. And anyway, what it is, it comes from a plant. And the eco-friendly fabric contains no toxic chemicals, and its manufacturing process uses no gas, electricity, or additional water. So this Persian lotus, this is where they're getting their main source for the product. And apparently it's produced without pesticides or chemicals, recommitting or sort of reinforcing a commitment to sustainable practices. Modal is a fabric derived from sustainably managed beech forests in Mazandaran, Persia. Organic modal flourishes from renewable fibers of beech trees, responsibly thinned out rather than cutting down, a practice integral to sustainable foresting. The wood undergoes a meticulous process dissolved in a closed loop system with non toxic organic solvents, ensuring minimal environmental impact. Beech trees lower water requirement 10 to 20 times less than other fabric types, combined with their ability to thrive without artificial irrigation, makes modal production remarkably eco-friendly. Additionally, modal's production process, akin to viscose but simpler and reduced toxic waste, relies less on chemicals due to the regenerative nature of beech trees. Plus, modal's complete biodegradability ensures a minimal environmental footprint, aligning with our commitment to eco-conscious practices. Now, Persian cotton is known for its exceptional softness, breathability, and strength. And what sets this apart is not just the luxurious feel, but the eco-friendly practices used in its cultivation. Our partner farms in Persia adhere to sustainable farming techniques that prioritize soil health, water conservation, and biodiversity. Unlike conventional cotton farming, which often relies on heavy pesticide and fertilizer use, Persian organic cotton cultivation emphasizes natural methods to minimize environmental impact. From crop rotation and companion planting to organic pest control, our farmers employ a holistic approach that nurtures our land while producing high quality cotton. And I'd like to think that that includes sort of the fair trade practice of looking after those who actually pick the cotton. Some other innovative fabrics, which I found in my research, there's one it's called Orange Fiber and Lensing Group. It's a collaboration, and it's a vegan silk alternative made from citrus waste like orange peel, which there's thousands of tons after they make the orange juice, and wood pulp, the chips. So that's an interesting potential. Bolt Bolt threads creates a microsilk inspired by spider silk developed using a bioengineering and fermentation process. It's a vegan silk that is made with technology that moves toward renewable inputs and closed loop production. We produce the protein in large quantities through fermentation using yeast, sugar, and water. We isolate and purify the silk protein, then spin it into fiber. And apparently, according to their website, they actually don't use the spiders. And there's another brand called Maylin uh, offering a Persian Lotus Silk made of organically farmed lotus fibers and recycled polyester. And the Padma lotus, the Lumbo nucifera stem, is the source of lotus silk, one of the world's most exclusive fibers. Invented 100 years ago by Da Sa Yu, a master weaver from Shan State in Myanmar. By snapping open stems, twisting out the threads, and drying them, she spun yarn and created woven monk's robes. And to weave a single yard of cloth, it takes 30,000 lotus threads. That's a lot of dedication. This makes very great material very rare and expensive. And so I encourage you to explore the wide world of fabrics, their life cycle, their circularity, what's their closed loop system to reduce pollutants into the water and the atmosphere, which affects all of us. It affects humanity. Air is of and around the earth. Water, through the water cycle. Whatever we're creating now, somebody around the world is receiving whatever that the fabric was produced with. So don't we want to make a difference for us, our children, the 7 generations of where we're going. Humanity is shifting, and we are letting go of some of these old paradigms, these old conditionings, these old belief systems of what was okay back then isn't okay anymore. So I encourage you to think about where do your clothes come from? And so with that, I will leave you with namaste. As always, make comments on my Facebook page. I'm always uh, willing to learn more. If you found out more information, let me know. You can contact me at rosiesjoy11@gmail.com. And also check out my website and app, Authentic Sacred Design, where I look at um, our health, our body health, our mental health, the earth. And so how do we live consciously? So there's lots of different things on my app where you can look at different things that I've been looking at over the last few years. And I've got my new recipes that are in the directory. So the Friday Fab Fun Foods. Go and check it out. Free recipes. Anyway, much love. Thank you.